Hi everyone, welcome to episode 34 of the Immigration Lawyers Podcast. I'm going to go over some fun stuff that happened this week, some new ideas I had, especially with regards to the practice of immigration law, how to be more efficient, how to get things done, get clients, and all that fun stuff I like to talk about. So without further ado, let's get started. Welcome to the Immigration Lawyers Podcast. I am the host, Attorney John Khosravi, and I practice U.S. immigration law exclusively. For more information about the program, please visit www.immigrationlawyerspodcast.com. Please note that this recording is informational only and does not constitute legal advice. Please consult with a licensed attorney for specific legal guidance that suits your case. Also, this recording is copyrighted and written permission is required for rebroadcasting. For more information about me, please visit www.jqqlaw.com. So, this week was a pretty fun week. At the early part of the week on Monday, I had a college student from CSUN, Cal State University Northridge in Los Angeles, contact me a week before actually, wanting to do an interview about sanctuary cities and what that means, and what the effect of the Justice Department's announcement that they're going to start cracking down and withholding funds from cities or states, really cities that consider themselves sanctuary cities. And he wanted to ask me what that means and what effects that has. So I set up a time and met with him and spent half an hour just going over through the whole sanctuary city process. And I went and researched it, and I was thinking about possibly doing a podcast about it because there's a lot of nuanced details of the law that will be interesting for practitioners. But I might, if I get a hold of his tape and it was thorough enough, maybe just use that and put that out there. But it's an interesting topic that affects so many people. If you're in a major urban center in the U.S., you're affected by this because they are considered sanctuary cities, which doesn't have a real definition. It just has several meanings and interpretations. But it affects the people around you that live around you and work around you, and the families and the classmates and everybody. So it's a very important topic to know and discuss and think about. But what was interesting is when I asked the student, and going back on that a little bit, as fun it was and informative as it was, and the goal was to just be informative and help people get to know and understand the immigration process better. It also served as marketing. That student goes to CSUN, he's going to go to a class of 30 people and play the video of me talking about this subject as an authority. And that's a commercial advertisement right there that could be 30 people that are interested and might contact me because of the information I talked about. And so when I asked him, like, how did you contact me? What happened? Why did you pick me to do this interview with? He said, I contacted 5 or 6 people. You're the only person that responded. And it really just goes back to how I get a lot of cases even. Just the fact that I respond to people's calls and emails in a pretty quick way. I don't leave them hanging or just waiting for a while. That itself is the key to success, really. They say showing up is the key to success. Returning people's calls is the key to success in an immigration practice. I get so many cases just because I'm the person that returned their call, and it should be more. They should really talk to 5 or 6 people. And I tell my clients even in the initial consultation that it's always good to get different opinions and see who you're the most comfortable with. You might have 2 even competent lawyers, but maybe another person you're more comfortable with expressing a lot of secret information, private information about your personal life, which you have to. So it's good to go talk to different people and get a feel for how they handle themselves and how confident they are in what they do. But most people just go down the list and call up a bunch of people, and the first person that picks up and answers, they get hired. So don't let these phone calls go hanging and return those calls. There's so much opportunity that could just disappear. And it's so fun doing these interviews and meeting people who are interested in listening to what you have to talk about. And it's such an important topic right now. Other than possibility of the president taking us to active war, this is the second biggest situation in the country that affects everybody. And the war itself is in the immigration zeitgeist. So it's just a crazy time to live in, but take advantage of opportunities when they're there. Don't let them just go away for no reason. Now moving on, there's one issue that I talk about a lot. It's with naturalization and people having a lawyer for naturalization. And the reason is because I've gotten feedback from people that are frustrated with me, saying when I recommend it in videos or something like that, saying you don't need a lawyer for naturalization, and you don't necessarily need a lawyer. And that's not my point is when I express this to different people, but you need to at least talk to a lawyer. That should be mandatory because, for example, I had a lady call this week, and she was from a foreign country, obviously, and she went to an interview. The interview got postponed because she said, I could speak English, but I can't read. I can barely speak English, but I couldn't write what he was telling me. And he said, okay, the officer said, come back in 3 months and do another test, and if you get approved, you approve. If you don't, you don't. And she said, you know what, like, it's kind of gallows humor. I said, do you have any health conditions, Alzheimer's or something like that could help you waive the requirement? And she said, no, unfortunately, I don't have any of these sicknesses. So she had no way to get rid of the issue. She was old, and she was not going to learn how to read and write English. She could passively speak it. And I said, you know what? And I went through the stuff, like the exceptions that we could pull out, and they weren't there. And then I'm like, why did you even file? Why don't you talk to the lawyer beforehand? They would have told you this. They would have saved you the $680 at the time. Now it's $725 or something for naturalization. And she's like, well, I didn't want to spend the money. I'm like, well, you just wasted a year of your life, and you paid the naturalization fee, which is more than a consultation would be, and you didn't go anywhere. It was a waste. So, like, this is something easy that could have prevented that happening, or she could have practiced reading or writing to a certain extent beforehand, and waiting for the naturalization process. But she just wasted her time and money, and she's an older person as well. So, having naturalization or consultation should be mandatory just to go over things. Because these little things that people don't know, and that you're immigration lawyers, you know how you have to deal with this issue, and you see it all the time too. The disasters that happen when people file their own, when it seems like an easy case and it's not, it's definitely something that needs an attorney to be involved in. Some cool things that happened this week as well. So when I was thinking about being a lawyer when I was younger, there was, I was wondering what makes a good lawyer, what takes those lawyers to the next level, those hotshot lawyers, the suits lawyers and stuff. And, the first things first is like knowing the law and be able to execute the law really well and being a good lawyer. But that's just one aspect of it. It's probably the most important aspect. But there was one case of this one guy. He was a musician of some sort, probably like a rapper or hip hop artist. And he was visiting the Middle East, and he had taken some drugs, I think some cocaine with him, was caught. And it's one of those countries where you get caught, they're going to chop off your hand and put you in jail or some crazy stuff like that. So it was a bad situation for him. He contacted his lawyer for help in the U.S. to do something. That lawyer happened to be also the entertainment lawyer for, I think it was like Ashcroft, the Justice Department guy at the time. And through that lawyer connection, was able to somehow relieve him of the issue. Some behind the scenes stuff happened, and the guy got away with it and came back to the U.S. and he's probably not going to that country ever again. But when I saw that, I'm like, wow, that's a next level lawyer. Being able to not only do the law, but know the people in the situation where you can get things done in a way that other lawyers can't. That really is what sets you apart from other lawyers, being able to make things happen. And so that's one of my goals in what I do, and that's why I go to all the USCIS meetings, all the CBP meetings. Anything I could do to give a little edge to my clients, I do that. It's something I definitely recommend. Take the time. It's a long-term investment. Anything you could do to better know the system, better know the players, to potentially be able to take that to the benefit of your client in a lawful way, that's the way to do it. And that's what takes the next level. And what way that happened particularly this week is I had two different cases actually. One was a client who had just lost his job, and it was a very bad situation, and he was worried. Very talented gentleman. And I happened to have another client that was like really big in that same industry. And I said, well, do you give me permission to give your name and copies of your work to this other client I have? And I just said, to the client I have, and let him know if he gives permission, you guys can communicate and do that. And so he said, yeah, sure, why not, And I gave the other client the information, and he's like, wow, this person's work is great. I'm definitely going to do something. And it's such a satisfying thing to bring two people together like that, benefit both of them, especially one which has a sad situation in between jobs and that. And I think that's, as much as I could help as an immigration attorney to help their process, to be able to give them opportunity in that sense is magical, and I really appreciated that aspect. This relationship of connecting people, goes above the law, and then it goes just the idea of a business and of networking and of a hub that we are as immigration attorneys, where we have so many clients. Because even if you're a low volume firm, you still go through a lot of clients and a lot of cases. We have a deep network of individuals that we can really help and make a change in society and affect people in that way. It's such an interesting business. And the business aspects has the ups and downs of the general lifestyle of a business. You know, a lot of you may be employees at a different firm that don't run it yourself, but you got to always remember in that sense too that your firm still has to make it for you to continue. There's so many firms going out of business right now. And I have a solo, so I feel it directly in line with the aspect of just handling cases and getting clients. I have to manage the funds and make sure the marketing and the money is being spent properly and things are happening to keep the situation going. And it just reminds me of the risks involved with being an entrepreneur, which is what a lawyer is and what they don't teach in law school, but I think should definitely be taught. Because unless you're working at one of the huge firms or large or mid-sized firms, you're directly have to participate in the entrepreneurial aspect. If you're working at a small firm, you still have to participate because you got to bring in clients potentially and keep the firm up, because you don't have that big of numbers to be able to get lost in it and just focus on legal work and have other people, partners, do that. And the reason why this came up is because it's been an expensive month for me, and you know, when you say expensive and costs, I got to look at it broadly of what a cost is. For example, I had some dental stuff that happened this week that was a little more expensive, but I also had some costs related to a networking group I joined and the ALA conference, which is pretty steep. It's $1,000. Then you have to fly over there. I'm on the West Coast, so flying to New Orleans, getting a hotel, Uber, all that kind of stuff, because I'm not going to rent a car. All these costs add up to thousands of dollars. And I think New Orleans trip's probably going to be $2,000. Networking group was another $2,000. And there's all these constant expenses that come in. But you got to look at it as a positive way and not shy away from spending it when you need to, when it's an investment. And you got to really clearly look at it not as a cost, but as an investment of it paying off in the long term. And in that light, I've really been trying to become more efficient in what I do. So I've been contacting a lot of these online software programs. Last week I talked about Serenade, which was interesting. This week I contacted Law Logics and went through a phone call with the salesperson that was supposed to set it up. And we went through the website. Now, one thing that was annoying about them is like they don't give you the software to test out. You kind of just watch them do it in a play-by-play online, which was cool. And the software looked good actually. Right now, that's the number one right now on them. And I'm gonna go through all of them. So I'm only 2 deep, so it's not too far. But it was very clean software. I did like it. The questionnaires looked good. The interface looked good. Was smooth communication with clients through the system. Everything looked really good. Now the price was a little steep, but to be honest, like if it's something that saves me even 1 hour a month, it pays for the price. So that's not the bad part of it, but I like to test it out first. But it looks really good. That's on the top of the list right now of the software I would get. I also registered with MyCase and thinking, because I'm looking for a questionnaire system. I don't need case management because I don't have a problem with case management at this point. But MyCase is a case management system. But so I accidentally registered. I'm not going to use it now. But I got to tell you, it was great software. Very thorough, very easy to use, intuitive. If you are looking for case management software, and this is the only one I've looked at, but I'm not sure if everyone has good ones. They're such an easy thing to do. But it looked great. And they have a free thing where online you could just download it and test it out and stuff. So I would definitely say if you're looking for case management software, so far that MyCase program looked really good. And haven't been endorsed or anything by any of these companies. I'm just testing it and going through them. I have a setup for next week, I think, to go over INS Zoom. That's another big one. I'm looking forward to doing Law or something like that. A lot of people said that was good. So I'm looking forward to do that. One thing I wanted to say, I wanted to say at the beginning, a shout out to Kim on the East Coast, a great attorney over there that reached out and watches the program, listens to the program. It's such a pleasure that when you guys reach out to me, I know you're listening and you enjoy and you have the communication, you're sharing information. That was the goal of this program from the start, was sharing information, having a venue where we could do that and I could be a hub for that. And it's also, for me, public speaking. And one thing I really want to focus on is the transitions in between these things. I have all these notes I want to talk about. I have to organize in better ways so transitions go better. But those are the general ideas I was thinking about this week, actually. It's just been really busy between clients and researching the law. You know, I had a J1 waiver case I was doing, and figuring out how this particular country dealt with it took some time. I had some O1 it's just all these nuanced issues, the O1 cases, how the agent will work in certain situations. I'm getting that once a week in different fields right now with the O1s. I also had, what was the other case that took a long time? Different L1 scenarios where people don't really want to do the L1 regulations, but they want to get the L1 visa, and they're not, it's not fitting within, they're trying to fit a square into a circle space. It's not happening, and they're not being as flexible as letting that happen. One thing I'm probably going to do a separate podcast on about L1Bs. There was a L1B case that was pretty important that came through the Supreme Court a couple of years ago about the Fogo de Chao restaurant bringing in L1 employees from Brazil that dealt with steaks. That was a certain name of people, these gauchos that deal with cooking food in a certain way, the ethnic way that they do it, the cultural way that they do it. And, that case, those L1B cases were filed, years ago. The Supreme Court case happened a couple years ago, maybe it was last year even. But just now the AAO released their decisions on those cases, and there were about 7 or 8 of them, and there's one-page decision saying it seems like another court has dealt with this issue, it's not in our hands anymore. But that case came out, excuse me, like 2016, and just now the AAO is responding. I'm surprised they even did respond, but these things are coming out. It just goes to show the delays that are caused when you're appealing, and whether it's really a wise decision and worth it to do a motion to reopen, reconsider, appeal, whatever, to the AAO, if it's not just better to just resubmit the case, especially when premium processing is possible. I've had cases where the AAO and they got responded to really quick and decided, but because they were cases where the issues were really small and insignificant, it was very easy to overturn it. But when you have these deep issues some of these cases have, to send it to the AAO is not the way to go, really redoing the facts of the case. But the L1B that Fogo de Chao deal with is a big issue. Just a general L1B is a big issue. I saw AILA release USCIS released them, the numbers for L1Bs, and actually weren't too bad. I had them set aside, I'm not sure where they are. But they weren't, still majority of them are approved. So although L1Bs is one of the hardest cases to get approved, it's still a high approval rate. So in general, it's not like things are going against us. But you got to work it. L1B is so easy for them to knock it down if the company isn't properly established. Now, I'm guessing a lot of these L1Bs are these very large companies that are hundreds of millions of dollars and thousands of employees. But especially if you're doing a smaller company in a certain field, it's going to be very tough. And I pretty much exclusively deal with small companies and new offices, so it has its own nuanced issues. There was actually another piece of law I wanted to talk about. There's a case where this guy suing ICE for holding him for 3 weeks, was a U.S. citizen, but they were trying to deport him, and they said, okay, we got to wait for a judge, and he's got to be held in prison or jail for 3 weeks, going to go to work, see his family. And it's such a dangerous thing to have when you can get picked up just because you have an accent or look in a certain way and put into removal proceedings and be held, and they're not even going to go in the system and look you up, your social security number, to see you're actually a person. I think there's a class action happening against this. And it's such a dangerous thing for our society if we're going to have to start carrying papers even more than we do. We carry our IDs, I guess, every day, but if we have to start carrying immigration documents, it's such a slippery slope situation for the creation of a totalitarian state. And it's very dangerous, and I hope that this case gets a lot of attention of people getting picked up. Now, they have passport cards now. Instead of carrying your whole passport, you have a one-page ID card that serves as proof of citizenship. It might be something worth to get. I might get one myself, but it just seems wrong to have to carry that with you to answer to something like that. And that's something we definitely have to push back on as a society. Another piece of news is the New York State became the first state that's going to have taxpayer-funded deportation defense attorneys, removal defense attorneys. So in one sense, it's a boom to the immigration attorneys in New York. There's some automatic business. But just to be frank, there's some issue with having taxpayers pay for the attorney for someone who's here unlawfully or is facing deport removal. Now, some people don't deserve removal, just like that poor guy that got picked up as a citizen. But it's something really to think about. Now, it's up to the citizen taxpayers of that jurisdiction to decide whether it's something they want to do. But is it right for people to be taxed to defend people that potentially are here unlawfully? Now, with regards to criminal rights, those are in the Constitution, and having a right to attorney is definitely a sacred thing. But I was actually moving on from that idea, which I want to only speak briefly about, there was something on NPR about public defenders. And so it's an interesting thing. And the reason why it was interesting is because when you're an immigration attorney, especially on removal, you're dealing with such high volume of stressful work and people that are not of means or disappear, who are in custody, and it's hard to communicate. And the public defenders are really, brothers in arms in this, and for those who practice removal defense. They're interviewing a guy in New Orleans who's actually a really good public defender. We take time to listen to his clients and do all of that. But what the one thing you're talking about is some public defenders eventually just want to keep the ball rolling in the system. So they whatever the client's charged with, they go work the prosecutor just to bring the charges down and then just plead to something and get out, even if they didn't do something. But there's a lot of repercussions when you just plead something down. But on the other end, if you don't plead, the prosecutor's going to keep you in jail in a very dangerous situation, away from family, away from work, away from getting an income. And it makes a very difficult situation where they're forced to plead to something that they don't want to. And potentially that kind of situation happens in immigration law. As well as the attorneys, because of the stress of the job, eventually the clients just turn into numbers, and it's hard to really get into it, and it stresses them out and it burns them out. And so this is something that's really important, just developing a method for these cases where the clients don't have the income, they don't have necessarily the wherewithal to help you in cases. I've helped cases where people were low income, and just getting them on the phone was difficult. In one sense, they were working so many hours, it was hard to meet them. But then when you ask for documents, they either don't keep them, they don't have time. They don't necessarily have scanners to scan everything or email everything. Sometimes they don't have email. And not just to say people with low income are like that, but that's just something you have to deal with. And it makes it really hard to defend somebody who has a definitely just right to be here, or a right to justice. And it's something that we need to really help with. I don't do removal defense, but I was hearing that story. I'm like, in a couple of years, once my systems are in place, just setting up, or people who are retired. So if you're an attorney that's you've made a living and you have everything ready, instead of retiring, go into doing removal defense for a couple of years and just pro bono. Or if you're a criminal attorney, go do public defender type work for a couple of years before you retire. That really is something that would be crucial to help our practice, and should just be part of our ethos to do stuff like that. And that's something I wanted to talk about. Finally, there was a crazy raid that happened in Southern California, one of these EB5 shops where they're just milking Chinese EB5 investors, taking a ton of money. It's just incredible that people do this. In one sense, it's incredible that the lawyers think they can get away with this. They're not going to get caught. And especially there was other regional center cases where the people took the money, the investor money, and bought expensive cars and stuff like that. I'm like, well, at least run away with the money. What are you doing staying in town when it's obvious you're going to get caught? It just goes to the criminal mindset of people when they see money and they get greedy and they just don't think 2 steps ahead even. It's shocking, especially when they're lawyers, when they're supposed to be logical and thoughtful enough to, even in crime, to think things through rather than just, take the money and staying in town. But it makes the AB5 program look terrible. It's in Congress right now, and they're really just talking a bunch of smack about the program. But I take the positive light. I hope they crack down on these people and clean up the system and put some sort of laws or some sort of security in place to make it more comfortable for investors to use the program. Now, unfortunately, the program is way up in the air. When people call me about it, it's the most annoying consultation I have to have. It's because whatever I tell them right now, and I'm like, this is the program today, tomorrow it may be different. And so how do you have a business, or how do you consult something like that? How do these companies, regional centers that are paying these huge amount of annual fees now with the new regulations, how are they going to accept investors when the investors are just not going to know what happened? Now, a bunch of people would just file faster, but unfortunately a lot of the clients I get, the proof of funds is going to take so much time, months and months. So we're in the process of working with them, possibly doing E2s when the countries allow it, at least to get them here. But the EB5 program is just one of those things where I wish whatever happens, it just happens sooner so we know what the playing field is. But again, I don't want whatever to happen, because some of these schemes that they're putting out there are just insane about backtracking and having investors who are invested last year getting more money now, all this kind of stuff that doesn't make any sense. So hopefully cooler heads prevail and some reasonable regulation and legislation could come out of that. But they've been kicking that can down the road for a long time, so I'm not sure what's going to happen. But I wish there was some sort of reliability on what I could tell my clients in the consultations about what the future of the program looks like. I'm actually going to be speaking. It isn't going to be in Farsi, but EB5 Investor or something like that. There's some sort of program they have. I'll plug it on the next week's show podcast. So that should be fun. Also, if you're going to be in Long Beach on May 3rd, I'm going to be giving a talk to the Long Beach Bar Association about the effect of President Trump's administration on the practice of law, not immigration, but the effects on other practice areas like criminal law, trust and estates, wills, and all these other areas that are going to see a boom financially and work because of the fact that the immigration problems lead to other issues that have to be dealt with. So that's something fun. If you are in Long Beach and you're a part of the Long Beach Bar, I'll be happy to see you. And also I'll send a link of the EB5 program to speak about. But again, it's in Farsi, so I'm not sure how helpful that's going to be for my listeners. I think that's it for today. Thank you so much for listening. I have such a blast always doing this. I'm going to create a new YouTube channel that's just for my podcast instead of having it on my law firm podcast. It's probably going to be called youtube.com/immigration lawyers channel or the immigration lawyers channel. I'm not sure which one's going to be. Probably going to do it tonight. It's Sunday night. I'm recording this. But definitely look into that. Definitely send me emails. I love talking and emailing with you. info@jqqlaw.com is my personal email. info@jqqlaw.com. If you want to join the Immigration Lawyers Listserv, just send me an email, proof of your attorney, and go to the website, immigrationlawyerslistserv.com, and there's different groups you could join to share information and get information. Other than that, I'm also on iTunes, so feel free to join and register to get the podcast on a continuous basis. Again, it's the Immigration Lawyers Podcast. I'm John Khosravi. Until next time, have a great week.